for any of those groups align with ours.
Somebody may say there's a lot of people that showed up for Obama just because he was black.
Sure, they can say that. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
But
Is
what do
that
you mean?
true?
You don't think it's true?
Of course, in a country of 330 million people, there are going to be some.
No, but you said you don't know if it's true. It's like, what do you mean you don't know if it's true? I don't know how many. You don't have any data? You want to get data to say people showed up that they just because they're black?
There's exit polling on most of these issues.
What's happening, everybody? David Pakman sat down with Patrick Bet David on his show, the PBD Podcast. As they discussed a variety of topics, Patrick Bet David wouldn't let David Pakman engage in his usual disingenuous and condescending debate style. That said, let's watch Patrick Bet David correctly call bullshit on almost everything David Pakman says while he flounders to save face. Let's go.
Idea, never were in politics, like, no, it sounds good, I'm voting for Trump. So he brought in this fourth group.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the fourth group, to be exact, it's his personality that people were turned on by the way he was.
Could be personality, but it could be that there was one thing he said that they really liked.
So let me ask you a question. Is there something wrong with that? I'm curious. Are you going to a place where there's something wrong with that, or?
No, it's not about right or wrong.
Yeah.
It's a question of whether any of us think that the policy motivations for any of those groups align with ours.
Somebody may say there's a lot of people that showed up for Obama just because he was black.
Sure, they can say that. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
But
Is that true?
You don't think it's true?
Of course, in a country of 330 million people, there are going to be some.
No, but you said you don't know if it's true. It's like, what do you mean you don't know if it's true? I don't have any. You don't have any data? You want to get data to say people showed up that they just because they're black?
There's exit polling on most of these issues. We might be able to find it right now. You know.
No, it's you know.
I think it's fair to say people voted for him because he was a cool black
I cannot even tell you how many people. I knew Republicans who were voting for Obama in the insurance industry just because, like, listen, man, first time this guy talks like MLK. You know, he sounds reasonable. I'm going to vote for the guy. There's a lot of people that came out with him. So somebody may say, well, you know, the reason why Obama got elected because he's got the three difficult things when he talks to the Democrat, but the fourth thing is he was black.
Okay.
And then you're going to say what?
I would say, yeah, I'm sure that there's a portion of people who vote based on that.
So you're saying the DNA of a Trump MAGA voter who looks past policies. So you're saying on the three policies he didn't check off, the three policies here, the 3 points. You're saying that.
I'm saying he didn't build the wall, or I'm not.
Let me take a step back with you. So I'm asking you a question, and I said, so tell me if you're saying he's going to get reelected without COVID. You're saying he would have gotten reelected.
I think he would have.
Perfect. And then you said your words. You said something in the context of, you know, because I think the MAGA voter is not about policies. That's what you said.
A lot of that fourth group, yes, is not about overarching accomplishments, or like, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about, and maybe it'll help to distill it. I got a call at some point during the first term of Trump from a guy who said, I'm voting for this guy. This guy's just the best. And I said, oh, okay. What do you care about? How are you evaluating his performance to decide if you're going to vote for him in 2020? Like, I'm curious, how do you decide? He said, well, I care about the wall. So he's got to build that wall. And I said, perfect. If he doesn't build the wall, are you still going to vote for him? And he says, well, yeah, I'm not going to vote for a Democrat. So I said, oh, so it doesn't actually matter if he builds the wall.
The same with you as well, though. There's no way you're voting for a Republican either.
I've been getting a lot of feedback in the comments that people absolutely love it when I stop in the middle of a video and tell people to like and subscribe. So here you go. Hey, if you like watching videos like these, like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
Would you vote for a Republican?
Sure. Yeah.
Have you ever voted for a Republican president?
No, I mean, I've only voted in a few elections.
Yeah,
but hold on a second.
But you're 40 years old. You're 1984, so
I'm 38. Please.
84, 38 years old. 38 is still, you've had plenty of elections.
Let's back up for a second. There's two questions. Would I and have I? I've only voted in a few presidential elections.
You've had plenty of chances.
Well, but who would I voted for? I was going to vote for George W. Bush in 2004. No.
But it doesn't matter. The point is, when you're calling that guy out, you're the same as that guy.
No, I'm not.
Okay, so tell me a Republican you'd vote for.
I think you're missing the picture. I think
what is it, though?
The point is, he made a claim that he was going to make a vote depending on policy. And when I then said, so if the policy fails, you'll vote for someone else? And he said, no, actually, the policy doesn't matter. That's the difference. I'm not making that claim.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a completely different thing.
I mean, the same can be said. To take one example of a story of a person who sounds like an idiot, to say that and then categorize everybody in Trump
I'm
is
not.
selective hearing. To say
That's not what I'm doing.
that's selective for you. Well, you are kind of doing that. You're saying here's a Republican voter who you ask, why are you thinking about voting for Trump? Oh, because he's building the wall. Then you said, if he doesn't build the wall, well, I would never vote for a Democrat. Well, do you care if the wall ever gets built? No, I don't care. I'm going to vote for him anyways. Well, that doesn't sound like a reasonable voter to me, though.
That's right. He's not a reasonable voter.
Well, the reasonable voters to me was also, if you were to ask the average person who voted for Biden,
Sure.
they didn't vote for Biden.
Okay.
They voted against Trump.
Okay.
Do you disagree?
I'd have to look at exit polls. Is that true?
So is that where you go to?
Something like
for
that.
a guy who, if this is your space,
Yeah.
what's your podcast about?
What is it about?
What's your show about?
News and politics?
You should know this stuff. You're the expert. I brought
I just
you
don't
here.
remember that offhand.
How
Let's
do you
find it
but,
right now.
But,
I mean,
but
let's
this is
look it
your world. Like if you ask me questions on business, I'm going to say, let me give you my feedback on what I think about business.
Yeah.
You invite me on your podcast, and hey, Pat, I want to talk about business.
Let's do that.
I have no problem with it to do
Listen,
that part.
here's
But what
the-
I'm saying to you is, if you're coming here,
Yeah.
saying what you're saying,
Sure.
and then I ask you a simple question of, so the same thing can be said about people that voted for Biden. Yeah, I'm going to vote for anybody. Dude, nobody would show up when Biden would speak. Did you not see his tour when he was going campaigning?
Patrick, you're not really doing this, are you?
Tell me,
you're doing this?
I'm actually curious where you're going to go now. What's your...
If David Pakman's fans had any brains, his viewership should have been cut in half after this interview. This exposes everything I've attempted to point out over countless videos laughing at David Pakman in one short clip. How would anyone take him seriously after this? And please watch this whole thing. It just gets worse. I mean, I don't understand how anyone can take him seriously at all, but this should have been the nail in the coffin. So David spent a lot of this time talking about how Trump voters don't vote on policy. They probably vote on one thing they like that he said, but they don't really understand. Then he tells a story about a guy he talked to that said he likes the wall and he'd still vote for Donald Trump if he didn't build the wall. That's a very long way to go to say Trump voters are idiots. And by the way, let me know in the comments if you think David Pakman would vote for a Republican. But with all his talking and the subtlety of a sledgehammer, it exposes indisputably what we probably all knew about David Pakman, but that he's a giant coward. He's weak. And what he could have done is just said, I think the vast majority of Trump voters are idiots. I wouldn't agree with him, but I'd have a lot more respect for him than I do after hearing him go round and round in circles with different anecdotes or suggestions as to why he's smarter than the most Trump voters. He is just a complete sissy little coward.
Wasn't even doing events where this is the Biden one from the basement thing.
Yeah.
I have a counter to this entire, and I want to just be really clear. I don't really care about defending Biden in any particular sense. I just think he was the better option than Trump. I feel like I'm being framed as this Biden lover who's going to defend everything.
I'm not doing that. You may be thinking I'm not doing that to you. What I'm asking.
What I want to say about this is,
can you
the
pull up
following.
Biden's rallies when he was running for president? Go ahead. Let's see the pictures. But go ahead.
Biden didn't do a campaign the way Trump did it. And the funniest thing to me about
Neither has anybody done it like the way Biden's done it. He hid.
Well,
but hold the guys.
this was during COVID, though.
Yes. Let's back up for a second.
Look how beautiful that is.
Well,
These are
because
COVID
it's
rallies.
COVID.
Oh, stop it.
Patrick,
You gotta be
can I
kidding
tell
me.
you
Big
something?
Pat, though.
This is really the.
You're
the height
telling
of
me
COVID.
you're
You
okay,
seem silly when you do this.
Here's what I'm willing to do. Here's what I'm willing to do.
Please.
I'm willing to give him
Yeah.
$1 million of my own money right now to go try to fill up an arena.
For what? What's the point?
Oh no.
To show that nobody is inspired by this guy.
This is so
not
silly.
No,
No,
but
what's silly is for you to assume people voted for Biden. They voted against Trump, is what they did.
Many did. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I'm saying.
but what you just said.
I said I don't know what the percentage is. All I'm saying is I don't know the
But it's your
percentage.
world, though. This is like if you're gonna sit here and talk about how bad the Trump voter is, and let me tell you, these people, all they care about is his personality for it, outside of the taxes and all this other stuff. And then I ask you a question, and I say, so why did people vote for Biden? Many of them voted because they just didn't want Trump. Yeah, I don't know the numbers on that. You should know those numbers.
What? I just don't know that offhand. I mean, we can look it up. Why do I need to memorize?
Can I make a quick point?
Can I just get? There's just one thing I want to say here.
Yeah,
go ahead.
This entire Biden hid stuff. It's such a
hid or hid
hid
okay,
in his basement.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about
he did though. He hid a lot of times, but
can I get a statement out? Okay. If I were on the right, I would stop saying that because it's embarrassing to Trump that he lost to a guy who hid in his basement.
It's not.
That's the crazy
Dude,
thing.
your
I would
president,
stop
your
talking
guy, Joe Biden, is the greatest hide and go seek champion of all time. That's
Wait,
who
hold
he
on a
is.
sec. He's not your president?
He's my president.
Oh,
but
okay.
but
He's our president.
But he's your guy. He's the
In
guy
what
you're
sense?
defending. You're defending him right now to say
Only that he's better than Trump because you're making me do this.
The only reason that there's no way even the liberals today are not saying he's better than Trump in executing or taking action or doing anything.
Let's find that.
The
find that
only
poll. Where's that
only
poll?
credit. Well, at this point, you've lost credibility to talk about polls because you don't even know what you're talking about when you're saying.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know if the people were voting against Trump. Let's find a poll. So if you can't agree to that
I don't
part,
know how many. Of course they were.
it's not just
Of course
how
they
many. It's if you go and look at any of these people who were doing what do you call it? Street. When they're going talking to people
Street
and they're
interviews?
doing, it's like, hey, so tell me, who would you vote here? Trump's the worst. I would never vote for him. People didn't want to vote for this guy because 99% of the media, everybody was sitting there bashing.
David Pakman's so flustered right now. He's running out of all of his cop-out tactics. This is so silly, which translates to I'm out of ammo on this topic and I don't have anything else to say. So I'm going to say it's silly and minimize what they're saying. So hopefully we can move on. But using that tactic and the condescension, it doesn't work as well after it's been established time after time in a very short amount of time during this clip that nothing you're saying is honest. In fact, if anything, it highlights your ineptitude, David. Just before I get to the last part of the clip, do you find it interesting how David is an expert when it comes to the motivation of Trump voters and essentially how dumb they are for believing promises he's made or voting for him because they don't like, the Democrat running against him? He had no question on that. But then when Patrick Bet David suggests one of the most obvious observations in the history of mankind, that people weren't voting for Joe Biden, they were voting against Donald Trump. For that, it's not so subjective. He needs polling data on that. What's the polling on that, or what's the numbers on that, is again, him getting backed into a corner. I'm sorry, if you have 5 senses and use logic, there's no question that people voted for Joe Biden out of pure hatred for Trump. A large majority. I'm not looking at polls or statistics. Come on. Just use your brain, man. That's not a question. So I don't even understand why he won't concede that. So as obvious as Patrick Bet David's statement was about the reasons people voted for Biden over Trump, anyone who's being honest would just acknowledge that and continue with their argument. But he's so fearful to concede any little point. He never does. Never. Because he's terrified that it will hurt his argument somehow later. Even when it's something obvious and not really detrimental to his argument, suddenly he needs data on that. But when it came to the Trump voters, it was all anecdotal. I know I'm never going to win any awards for Orator of the Year, but I really hope you're seeing and I'm conveying to you how this interview not only encapsulates David Pakman's entire debate style, but also how it crumbles when it's pushed back on it all. I really hope you all are seeing this, but in this final clip here, I hope you've stayed around for this, because this is kind of the payoff here, in my opinion. We got one more short clip you're going to want to see, and then we'll wrap it up.
There's a red flag for me.
Yeah, it's not rare as a view on the American right that is generally, who cares what other countries think? I would almost rather they hate us. That's really common.
I didn't say that.
No, I'm not
That's
saying
what you were
did.
saying.
And
I
that's
want to see
really
a poll
common.
on that. Do you have a poll on that?
Not offhand.
Then
but
how could you say, why do you have a poll? Give me a poll.
Patrick.
But no, give me a poll, because that's an anecdote now.
We can use this to stop any conversation.
But you're
hold on a
doing
second.
that. But that's what you're doing,
you
though.
just did it with the polls about
but
liberals
you're the
no longer
expert.
like
You're the
Biden.
political expert. I'm not.
Oh, come on.
You're
is
the
so
political
silly.
expert. What you just did, no,
silly.
you're being silly. So I'm giving you exactly what you've been doing for the first 30 minutes. Now it officially bothers you.
No, it doesn't bother me. I think it's silly. I think we don't get anywhere.
But wait a minute. But what you're saying is that if the argument you give, I said, show me a poll.
Yeah.
Show it to me. You can't do it.
There's a difference between you
what?
saying that there's a specific opinion among voters that they were motivated by a
Stop.
particular reason.
You-
we have polling on that.
You like
we just
to-
have to find it.
You like
We could put it on the screen.
to use that, but not when it works against you. Yeah, I didn't say hate. I'm not a hate guy. If I was a hate guy, you wouldn't be here today.
I didn't say that.
No, you said most Republicans would prefer if other countries hated us. You're assuming.
I didn't
now.
say most. Run it back.
Wait, you didn't say what?
I didn't say most.
You said
I
what?
said there is a contingent on the right,
Right.
that actually is emboldened by, if they
How
don't like,
small of a community is that?
don't know.
So you're going to take the exception? Are you going to make that argument?
Oh my God,
Yeah.
Patrick, I'm verklempt.
Yeah.
This has been a masterclass in dismantling a manipulator's arguments. When David is not on his home turf, can't control the conversation, can't control the narrative, can't force people off of topics to stay on the topic that he's locked and loaded for, he falls apart completely. He looks like an absolute joke here. The reason I said that last clip was the payoff is that David acknowledged that his debate style is an evasive style. And it's all about winning the argument as opposed to really, having a substantive conversation. What do I mean by that? You all have already seen a couple times in this clip where David says, what's the polling on that? What's the data? I don't do anecdotes. But the second Patrick Bet David asks him to provide data, I don't know. I don't know. It's not needed for the points that he made. It's exactly like Patrick Bet David said. You like to use that in your argument all the time, but then you don't like it when it's used against you. And how did he respond to Patrick Bet David? Well, you can use this to stop any conversation. No shit. That's why you do it all the time. You guys haven't seen the whole interview. He's done this throughout the interview multiple times. I should have counted them. It's ridiculous. Anytime there's a point that he doesn't like, he says, where's the data on that? Is there polling? And he uses a similar move in other arguments where even if you show him the data, he says, what's the source? The point that asking for polling is a way to stop any conversation. Yes, David, we know that. Thank you for finally admitting it. And don't forget, I don't know if you caught it, he threw in silly again there, which again means I have nothing for this. And then I'm verklempt. Ha 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 ha. Again, is out of character for him. He's literally speechless. He has nowhere to go. But what Patrick Bet David did there was prove unequivocally why David Pakman is so bad at this and why no one should ever take him seriously. I mean, I hopefully most of you watching know that. But if there's any David Pakman fans out there, let me know in the comments how I'm wrong. But what did you all think about this conversation between Patrick Bet David and David Pakman? Did it expose him as much as I say it did? Or is it possible that I'm just so biased that when I watch this, the lens that I view it through skews my interpretation? If that's the case, Obviously, always my opinion, educate me in the comments. But anyway, that's it for this video. If you like watching folks like David Pakman or David Pakman himself spout nonsense and try to weasel their way out of conversations, manipulate words, or just flat out lie, click on one of the 2 videos that just popped up on your screen. Otherwise, as always, I genuinely appreciate you watching. The end.